Hi everyone, I'm Alexander Zeitlin, and this is the Lockdown Lecture Series for beginner viola, adapted from the Alias Music Introductions course for the classroom setting. Let's jump into Lesson 5. So last week we went over using the bow and using the bow on the scales and each of our songs. You guys should basically have learned all of the songs individually and be playing the scale with the bow and songs with the bow as well. So let's jump into today's lesson, and today we're not going to go over new material, no new pieces, but we're going to take a look at how sound works on your viola, what you can do to control your sound, and some of the errors that you might encounter. Now there are 4 things primarily that control our sound on any string instrument. There's our bow pressure, bow speed, our contact point, and our bow tilting. So bow pressure is how much weight you apply from your hand through the bow into the string, and generally it controls the volume of your playing, how much sound comes out. So the heavier my hand is, the more power I deliver into the string, I get more sound. If I have too much or too little, I can run into one of 2 sound errors. Okay, so errors are generally like things that we just don't want, our sound to make these sounds at all. We don't want our instrument to make these sounds. All of these things, and more advanced players will use to kind of create variations in their sound and different colors. But as beginners, we just try to avoid sound errors and have a nice neutral sound. So if I have too much weight in my bow, I will have a crunch to my sound. At some point, my bow just cannot continue moving and it starts to crunch. And if I have too little weight in my bow, I get a whistle in my sound. I don't have enough pressure on the string for the bow to really grab the string. So if you hear a crunch or a whistle, it has to deal with how much bow pressure. Now bow speed controls projection. Essentially, the more bow I use, the more my sound projects. So I can increase my bow speed to make it project more, or less to make the sound more internal. But if I don't use enough bow, my sound starts to choke. And so it's kind of like the violin's trying to speak, but we don't let it. And interestingly enough, if I use too much bow speed, it'll start to whistle, essentially, because I haven't balanced my pressure and my bow speed right. It'll start to whistle. The third thing that controls your sound is your contact point. So your contact point is essentially like where your bow is between the bridge and the fingerboard. So where it is here. If it is too close to the bridge, you will get a whistly sound, or a hissing sound. And if you get too close to the fingerboard, you get a weak sound. So sound gets more and more intense until it essentially hisses back at you. It's going to sound like this. And if you go over the fingerboard, it's going to sound like this. Essentially, it sounds like there's just too much air in my voice and I have a weak tone. Now, your last thing that controls your sound is bow tilting. We're not really going to worry about that one right now, but essentially just to explain what it does, bow tilting, generally, your bow should be tilted slightly away from you. Okay, when you're playing, it shouldn't be flat like this where all my bow hair is contacting the string. I'm going to change the view so you guys can see a little better. There we go. So it shouldn't be flat like this. It should be tilted away from me. So as I'm tilting my bow slightly away from me. I don't want to tilt it so far that the wood hits the string, but I want it to be tilted a little bit away from me so that not all of my bow hair is on the string. Now, this won't affect your playing too much right now. Just keep it lightly tilted. it will affect it later when you learn more advanced bowing techniques like off the string playing. And essentially, how much of my bow hair grabs the string will impact how much it bounces off or how much friction there is. And so that's something that later on you will use. So your job this week is to practice all of your bow hand warm-ups, your whole bows, your scale, your songs, and be thinking about and listening for what your sound errors are. At first you might have to look, you might hear a sound you don't like and think, well, I heard a crunch. Oh yeah, that's because my hand is too heavy. I heard a whistle. Oh yeah, that's, too much bow speed. Or I hear a hiss too close to the bridge. But eventually what I want you guys to start doing is to go by ear, to be listening and to hear that hiss, for example, and without looking, oh yeah, that's because my bow is too close to the bridge. It's right on top of the bridge. And so I need to just move it away. I can do that without looking. I remember this way is the solution. If it's too heavy, I remember I use my pinky and I lift my bow to make it lighter. Okay? So use your ear to solve your sound issues. Now, the other thing you should be doing is starting to practice, as your new assignment, is to practice all the songs together, because what I want to see is that each of you guys can have the stamina to make it through all 4 of your songs without putting down your instrument. You can just take a pause between each piece and just reset your bow hand, make sure it looks good, but generally no putting your instrument down. So if you haven't done that, pause, go practice. But when you're ready, come back and start the video from here, and I will play it. You guys can play along with me. I will not play with the rhythm. I'll play a little bit of rhythm, but mainly whole bows. And you guys just kind of match my notes as much as possible. So if you're ready, here we go. All 4 songs, nice and slow with whole bows and nice sound. Mary Had a Little Lamb first. Now twinkle. Make sure your bow hand looks good. Are you sleeping? that's it. That's all 4 songs. If you made it, congratulations. If your hand is like a 10 out of 10 tired, maybe do it a few more times for a few more days so you can build up the strength to do it more comfortably. And that's it. I will see you in the next lesson where we will go over the Bach minuet. All right, see you next time.